Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. I just finished a video covering Elon Musk exposing the truth behind Twitter censorship, and clearly the conclusion there was it always goes in one direction. The only people we see that are being reinstated are conservatives, conservative accounts being silenced are the only ones coming back. Not a single major leftist account has been permanently suspended. And so what I'm trying to say is that it's always one side. Well, you know what else is always one side? Clearly destructive, in this case possibly world war starting misinformation and fake news. Why is it that it's always only one side that's caught doing this kind of thing? When's the last time you heard of an independent or conservative source being fired or reprimanded or pushing some sort of widespread massive conspiracy that had truly destructive and devastating consequences? I mean, leftoids like to pretend as if that's the case with various different issues, but it never actually truly pans out. For the most part, being a conservative, right-wing, or anti-leftist corporate media, independent thinker or source on the internet, for the most part you're playing catch-up. It's like what we do, right? We're spending most of our time debunking the leftist nonsense that we don't have time to spread misinformation or invent wacky stories. You just don't see it in the same way. Yet here we go again, over and over and over again. The media is caught in yet again another misinformation fake news scandal, as the AP, the Associated Press, fires one of their journalists for pushing overt, destructive fake news. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on here. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, take a look at this piece from the Daily Beast. Associated Press fires reporter behind retracted Russian missiles story. The Associated Press scared much of the world last Tuesday when it alerted readers that a senior US intelligence official said Russian missiles crossed into NATO member Poland, killing 2 people. That report, which was widely cited across the internet and on cable news, was taken offline the following day and replaced with an editor's note admitting the single source was wrong and that the subsequent reporting showed that the missiles were Russian-made and most likely fired by Ukraine in defense against a Russian attack. On Monday, the Associated Press fired James Laporta. This guy, the investigative reporter responsible for that story, Confider has learned. The piece, which was originally co-bylined by John Leicester, who is still working at the AP, attributed the information to a single senior US intelligence official, despite the AP's rule that it routinely seeks and requires more than one source when sourcing is anonymous. The only exception, according to its statement of news values and principle, is when material comes from an authoritative figure who provides information so detailed that there is no question of its accuracy, a situation that seemingly did not occur as the report was fully redacted on Wednesday. The Associated Press later issuing a correction on the Russia-Ukraine war story. 3 US officials told the AP that preliminary assessments indicate the missile that struck Poland had been fired by Ukrainian forces at an incoming Russian missile. And so once again, let's tackle the issue of misinformation. I don't know how many times we have to do this until people start getting it in their head that the threat of misinformation doesn't come from right-wing independent journalists. It comes from the corporate media shills. No matter how many times Hillary Clinton and Obama get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to give speeches on the threat of misinformation in our democracy and blah blah blah, it's never gonna make their narrative true. Throughout history, we have seen it repeatedly that corporate fake news outlets are always behind truly destructive misinformation that in many cases leads to war. Let's look at one example, for instance. The Gulf of Tonkin incident was an international confrontation that led to the United States engaging more directly in the Vietnam War. It involved both a proven confrontation on August 2nd, 1964, carried out by the North Vietnamese forces in response to covert operations in the coastal region of the Gulf, and a second claimed confrontation on August 4th, 1964, between ships of North Vietnam and the United States in the waters of the Gulf Tonkin. Originally, Americans blamed North Vietnam for both attacks. Later investigations revealed that the second attack never happened. The American claim is that it was based mostly on erroneously interpreted communication interceptions. In other words, a fake report, a misinterpretation, a claim which conveniently was not investigated, which was then used as an emotional tool to fearmonger to justify the escalation of a war, or the declaration of a war, or boots on the ground. And that is exactly what we saw here at the Associated Press. The individual working for the leftist publication was an investigative journalist, but did he investigate? Absolutely not. He just got it from an anonymous source that this was a Russian attack on a NATO member. You know, you would think that that's something that you should probably verify before you run with the story, considering the implication. It's called doing your basic due diligence. I've been doing this for a couple years now. I mean, by no means am I a veteran in this world with decades of experience, but you know what? I've been faced with all kinds of reports based on anonymous sources, the attack on the pipeline, and even this missile strike. And guess what I don't do? I don't make videos. At least not the day of. And I certainly don't report on anything as fact, especially when the implications are World War III. In many cases, I've waited as long as a week before I even start to develop an opinion, as you wait for the information to slowly trickle in. Then you have these journalists and these supposed experts working for these massive platforms, posting straight up fake news, I mean truly destructive stuff, based on the first anonymous source who tells them something. And that's the innocent take, that they're just giving too much trust to an anonymous source or a US official whose identity is being masked. The more cynical outlook, and honestly probably the more likely, is that this is the war machine cabal using journalists to further escalate this conflict, because of course, the more war, the more conflict, the more profits in the hands of these warmongering profiteers. I choose not to believe that these are just innocent mistakes. They're not. These aren't innocent mistakes. The media knows exactly what it's doing. They do it over and over again. They've been doing it for 6 years straight to attack and slander Donald Trump and anyone around him. They use these anonymous sources and US intelligence officials to craft these narratives, and they're almost never held to account. I mean, we're just gonna pretend like it was no big deal that for 4 years straight, they demonized the Russian state and attacked Donald Trump as being a Manchurian candidate? We're just gonna pretend as if, oops, we just got it wrong based on some salacious information. Oh, little mistake here and there, you know, it happens. No, not only was it highly divisive, but I have a feeling antagonizing the Kremlin for domestic political gain probably wasn't a good thing, and probably escalated tensions going into Joe Biden's administration as Democrats took over. It's not just little oopsies. They know exactly what they're doing, and they also know that narratives are hard to topple. They put out that false information, it gets incredible traction. I mean, nearly every single outlet and all over Twitter, people were talking about this Russian attack on a NATO member, Russia's escalation of war. Volodymyr Zelensky was then calling for further escalation. Hundreds of millions of people probably saw that story and were influenced by it in some shape or fashion. And then, of course, the correction that follows after the narrative is completely debunked gets a couple hundred likes on Twitter after the Associated Press corrects it. But please, leftoids, keep lecturing me on misinformation. Go right ahead. Oh my God, Donald Trump is gonna start World War III. He brings unprecedented global stability and peace. And then these blue anon lunatics take over, and look at where we are. Where does the threat of dangerous misinformation really come from? I don't know. You can make up your own mind. You certainly know where I stand. That's what I got for you guys though. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel if you guys are up for it. I'm gonna get out of here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.